Hi, it's cuffing season, so people are dating, they're about to start linking up with each other, and we want to make sure that we're doing that in as safest of a way as possible. My name is Olivia. I am passionate about helping you to understand what relational trauma is so that you can avoid it, overcome it, and eventually move on with your life. So today is all about how to date safely, or again, as safe as possible. You can go to my website, relationaltrauma101.podia.com, and get this free PDF, which I'm going to walk you through today. So you can watch the video or send that PDF to someone else if you think that someone is being a bit more high risk with their dating or putting themselves in dangerous situations, which we want to avoid. But for many of us, we don't really know how to date safe. What does that even mean? So let's walk through just a few tips and tricks. So this is for brand new dating someone. So you've been messaging back and forth, or how, either through a dating app, or maybe now you have each other's number and you've sent a couple of messages. For the most part, it's important to remember this is a stranger. You don't know them. You don't trust them because you don't know their character. You have what they've told you about them. You've had maybe what you've read in what they wrote, but other than that, you don't know them. So before you agree to meet with them, it's really good to try to FaceTime them, or to, at the very minimum, speak with them on the phone. Because I know lots of people are really shocked from what they were told and believed they were going to meet as compared to what they actually met. So remember, before you even schedule a time or say that you want to meet, let's try and have a conversation. I know someone did this recently, excuse me, and the person actually got a bit aggressive with them on the phone. And so from there, when they hung up, they sent a text, "Hey, you seem like a really nice person. I don't think this is going to work. This isn't a good time." So if you don't want to give someone your phone number, see if the app that you have allows you to talk, or if that's not a possibility and you're serious about this person. I don't know if people make a Google Voice phone number or how anyone gets around that. So I would be a bit leery about giving your phone number out, but I'd be even more leery about just going and meeting someone in person who I had not either FaceTimed or spoken to on the phone. So keep that in mind. I would really try to have a verbal conversation, because a lot of times you're going to get even more understanding about who that person is than just through messaging on an app or through texting. So want to make sure that you really try to speak with them on the phone at the very least, or try to FaceTime. It can be harder to back out if you say, "Oh yeah, well, let's go to Starbucks Friday at 9. Oh, but before we do, let's talk." If you have someone who's not willing to do that with you, I would just say, "It's been nice talking to you," and move on. Because if they're refusing to FaceTime you, or they're refusing to speak with you on the phone, then why in the world would I go through all the effort of driving somewhere and meeting you when you can't even talk to me on the phone? So that would just be a no for me. Everyone has to decide what's best for you, but we're trying to get to know as much as we can before we agree to meet. So it's a lot easier to just avoid not meeting altogether than if you schedule a time, then try to talk. So remember, hey, let's talk and see if this is worth us meeting or not. So try to do that before you schedule a time. But if you schedule a time and your gut is saying this is a bad idea, cancel it. Say no, thank you. Next one. Because this is a stranger, it's really important that we're not getting picked up by them, and we're also not picking them up. So you're not going to drive to their house or wherever it is they are and allow them to get into your car because you don't know them. If you allow someone into your car, you're giving them quite a bit of trust. Also, if you allow them to go to your house, you're giving them quite a bit of trust. So some people might say, well, someone can find out where you live no matter what. Yes, that's true, but that is also not the same as inviting a stranger to your home. So I'd be really mindful. I don't know them. I'm not going to go pick them up. I'm not going to be picked up by them, because then I'm at their mercy and I'm in their car, which to me is a terrible idea because you don't know them. So instead, let's agree to meet in public. So my first time meeting you is not going to be you cooking me dinner at your house. I don't know you. I'm not going to go to your house, right? Or me cooking you dinner at my place. I don't know you. You're not coming into my place. So I would meet in public, and I would take myself there And I would also leave without them, because even though we might have messaged a few times, maybe even talked hopefully on the phone a few times, now we're meeting in public, I still don't know you well enough, especially after this first date, to go to your house or for you to be invited to my house. So that first meeting would be in a public space, and when it's over, it would be over and I would go my separate ways, right? So being mindful, because your heart wants to fall and your brain's going to think you know them better than you do. And talk to anyone who has been like, how could I have thought that I knew them? Like, they're just shocked that they really were feeling so close to this person. And then if something terrible happens, it's like, why in the world did I think I knew him? But that's just what happens to all of us. So knowing that, this is where we work on some of that prevention. And it's okay, talk to you on the phone, meet in public. When it's done, it's done. I go my separate ways and you go your separate ways. And then hopefully we meet again if we like each other. So public space, don't leave afterwards together, and don't go to the public space together. That's a tip, right? Next one, what do you share on a first date? That can be really tricky, trying to decide, what should I share with someone on my first date? So remember, this is a stranger, and you really want to be able to protect your privacy. The more you tell them what you have in your life, the less privacy you're having, and the more you're letting them in. So we don't let people in until we know if we can trust them, right? You can check out the relationship trust boundary model. So you want to keep it surface, no past traumas, no great hopes, no issues really that you're facing. You could talk about shared values or shared interests. So I like to kayak and hike. How about you? Right? So we're just seeing, do we even have anything in common for us to continue our conversation? But I'm not talking all about my childhood and everything that's, terrible or gone wrong, or great future hopes, because if I start going there, I'm going to start to bond with you, and I don't want to do that yet because I don't know you. So we keep it surface, talk about shared interest, and see if there's any point in continuing this. So that's something to talk about. It might be time to run if. And remember, I'm just going through this PDF that's free off of my website, Relational Trauma 101.podia.com. This is when it might be time to run. So here's one thing. If you see them be rude to anyone, so if you're with them and they're rude to anyone, I would think that'd be a time to run. Now, there's always exceptions to the rules, and a lot of times we try to make allowances and play off these exceptions when actually, no, it's usually better to follow the rule. But again, you have to decide that for yourself. So if you see them be rude to anyone, remember, this is your first date. They're supposed to be like on their best behavior, as are we. So if they can't hold it together and just be polite and decent that very first time they're around you, for me, I would probably run. Next one. If they don't ask any questions or they don't answer your questions. So if you're asking really super personal questions and they're not answering, that would be okay. But if it's like, how long have you lived in this state? And they won't answer. Or, are you working? Like, where do you work? And they don't answer. Those types of things that are kind of giving you an outline of the person that they are. If you find like, wait, I still don't know. Like, you just talked for 20 minutes and I still don't know the answer to my question, right? So if they're kind of like avoiding or evading your questions, or if they're not ever asking you any questions. So sometimes, we get anxiety, we get nervous. And so we're just not really reciprocating or giving room for the other person. But if it's the whole date, plus when you talk to them on the phone, it was that way. And when you're texting, it's that way. And now you're in person, you're starting to see a pattern. It might be time to run, because this person might really be about themselves, which doesn't leave a lot of room for you. Next one. If you don't feel safe. If there is ever a moment where you don't feel safe, like you don't feel like you're safe to talk, safe to disagree, safe to excuse yourself to go to the restroom. Like, if you just don't feel safe for whatever reason, maybe the way they're looking at you is making you feel very uncomfortable. That is your gut. So you want to listen to your gut. So if you don't feel safe at any point, it would be time to run. Which means, so if it's time to run, it means to pull the eject or the ripcord on the potential of this relationship. Meaning, no more, we don't go any further. Like I'm out completely. Next one, if they're really heavy on the compliments, right? So someone who's just like giving you so many compliments, it's like beyond the point of feeling awkward. And part of it is like, you're telling me I'm like the smartest person you've ever met in your life. How could you possibly know that? You don't know me, right? So for you to be giving me compliments that I like haven't earned, or you really, how could you even say that? It just feels fake. It probably is. And that could be a warning sign of many things. So be mindful if they're giving you a bunch of compliments, too many compliments, I would also say it's time to run, because they're really not meeting you there and really trying to connect with you, right? They're just trying to get inside of you emotionally, and they're trying to hook you to them emotionally without actually establishing a relationship. So that's just poor boundaries, a lot of red flags for me. Next one, they try to be touchy-feely. Ugh. So someone who just right out the gate is like hugging you and like almost like, oh, like just hugging you too much, right? That's kind of freaky. Someone who is sort of taking liberties that they should not be taking. So maybe they sit really close and put their arm around you, and that's like just a lot for just meeting someone. That's way too much touching, right? Or if they're hugging you and expecting you to kiss them and you just met them, right? What? That's way too much. So being mindful, if they're super touchy-feely, if they're just touching you the whole time, maybe they like touch your hair, that'd freak me out. I don't know about you guys, but just too much touching right out of the gate, and if it's like, oh, well, that's their love language. And no, that's poor boundaries. That's taking liberties they do not have and have not asked permission to take. So I would say that'd be a huge red flag for me, and I would run. Next one. They seem irritated or impatient. So remember, this is your first date. If they're irritated with you or really irritated with the staff, or they're super impatient with you, super impatient with people, you just notice like a lot of irritation and a lot of impatience, or even some, I would say, because this is supposed to be, yes, it's stressful, but it's supposed to be like a fun thing where we get to know each other, and we're here spending this time together. So if you're more worried about how long it's taking someone to bring a cup of coffee, then that's just could be signs of many other things. So also character traits, because guess what? They eventually are going to be impatient and frustrated with you, and that does not feel good in a relationship. So the last one, if they get drunk. So it's not just if they drink, but if you're with someone on the first date and they get drunk, yes, it can happen. Yes, it can be an accident, but remember, those would be exceptions to the rule. If you just very first meet someone and they cannot control themselves, especially with their alcohol, that could be an issue they're battling, which is terrible, right, for them. But that doesn't mean it has to be your issue to battle with them, especially, if you don't have skin in the game, if you don't have this long invested relationship with them. Remember, this is what you're signing up for. And so you want to know what you're signing up for. And if you know that, and it seems to be a problem, you want a partner. You want equality. You want this equal partnership that you can have. So that doesn't mean like someone who's battling with alcohol, you just throw them away and discard them and don't like them and they're less than anyone else. No, but it does mean this person cannot control themselves, which means they're potentially not going to control themselves with you. And it could also be a sign of a larger problem. Remember, we're not trying to sign up to, rescue someone or sign up just to, so it's not that you couldn't be a friend and help, but that's different than partner, right? For partnership, you want your equal. You want to be able to try to find your equal. So being mindful, those are times to run. 90 days, there is very common, right? In interviewing victims of domestic violence, their first interaction of violence occurred within that first 90 days. So someone can really only hold a mask, it seems, for about 90 days. But the problem is, if we're already hooked and bonded and committed to this person, and then you have an act of violence occurring within that first 90 days, much harder to get out of it for so many reasons. But if we're just committed to finding out who this person is for 90 days, and then we're going to decide if we're going to commit, then something happens that's not good, it's much easier to get out of it. So really give yourselves 90 days to just try and see who this person is. If I'm working with someone that is dating for the first time, it's really truly marking it on your calendar. What is day one? And have your 90-day date in place. 90 days from now is this date. So I'm not committing before this date because your heart and your head wants to fall. And it's true, you're going to see these mannerisms, you're going to see these behaviors, you're going to be treated some type of way if it's less than ideal within usually that 90-day time period. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good measuring stick. So no committing for 90 days. And then if you have to get out of it or it ends before that 90 days, it's way less heartache. It's a lot easier to move on because you're not so emotionally invested and hooked. So being mindful that 90 days is pretty magical. Okay, so how to walk away? How do you walk away when you decide no, this is not working for me? If you decide you don't want to see him again, you want to be courageous. You're going to have to be courageous in most cases, and you want to be polite. Okay, so you're not trying to be nice and you're not trying to be rude. You're being courageous and you're being polite. So here are some ways that you can say no, thank you, and let that person know, I'm just not interested. It's not going to work for whatever reason, and I'm just going to move on. You could say things like, and again, this comes from the PDF, so I'm reading it. You could say something like, hey, it was really nice meeting you. I appreciate the date, but this probably just isn't going to be a good fit for me. Another thing could be, thank you for asking me out again. I really enjoyed our time. However, this just isn't going to be a good fit for me, but I think you're great. Another one would be that you say whatever it is you're comfortable saying. So it's very clear. It's very direct. You're being polite, right? Really nice to meet you. This just isn't going to be a good fit for me. Or thank you for taking me out. Thank you for asking me out. I really appreciate it, but it's just not going to be a good fit for me. So practice saying those things and then just say that. If you can just have your one-liner or your sentence ready, it's a lot easier to say it. And the more you say it, the easier it gets. So a lot of times we just can't confront. And so we either just keep on going and stringing that person along because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we just sometimes don't have the vocabulary, don't know what to say really. So having practice a statement or a sentence when it comes time to use it, it's a lot easier to do that. So if you like this information and you want more, you can check out relationaltrauma101.podi.com. I will leave the link to the PDF and also to the website in the description. And again, remember, this is a stranger for the most part you're dealing with. So we have to remind ourselves that we don't know them better than we think we know them, because we tend to think we know them better than we actually do, which means we let them get closer, which means it's compromising our safety oftentimes. So it's not that the world is scary and everybody trying to date is a dangerous person, but it's being mindful. You could potentially be a wonderful person or a very dangerous person. I don't know you, so I don't know which you are. And because I don't know that, I'm going to take these steps, right? You're not coming to pick me up. I am not going to pick you up. We're going to meet in public. You're not coming back to my place. I still don't know you. And also, if I see any of these traits, this is where I know it's pretty clear I need to probably just move on. And now I have statements that I can give if I choose to do so. So again, relationaltrauma101.podia.com. I hope if you're looking for a person that you find that person. And I really hope that as you do so, you do it in as safe of a way as possible. Another thing I just want to mention really quickly is to let someone know. That should go in the PDF, right? Being mindful that you let someone know who the person is. Maybe send the picture from their profile. Let them know what time you're going. And if I don't contact you by this time, come looking for me, right? So just give someone else a heads up of what it is you're doing so people know who you're with, where you're going, the time frame you're going, and then when to expect your return, so that someone could be looking for you and checking in with you. That's a good safety tactic as well. So take good care, all the luck, and I will see you in the next one.